The chamber of the Galactic Council was silent. Normally, it was a place of power, filled with loud voices, arguments, and pride. But on this day, fear ruled. Great alien empires, who once called themselves masters of the galaxy, now sat with bowed heads. Their fleets were burning, their colonies falling, and their people crying. The reason was simple. Humanity, the humans, once mocked as a small, primitive race from a blue world called Earth, had risen like fire in the darkness. Number one had expected it. For centuries, the stronger species laughed at them. The Council allowed slavery, raids, and humiliation. Humanity was supposed to remain weak. But now, things had changed. The evidence could not be denied. A fleet of 300 alien warship ships built with centuries of advanced technology had been destroyed in less than an hour. The survivors spoke of a nightmare, human warships that moved faster than light, weapons that cut through shields like paper, and soldiers who fought like demons. The Council could not believe it, but the truth stood in front of them. Humanity was no longer begging for a place among the stars. Humanity was here to decide who would remain in the stars. The High Speaker of the Council, a tall insectoid being with crystal-like wings, finally broke the silence. His voice trembled as it echoed across the chamber. We must call them. We must beg. The word beg made many councillors shiver. They had never begged anyone before. They had enslaved entire worlds, crushed rebellions, and silenced voices with fear. But now, fear had chosen them as its victims. A scaled reptilian overlord slammed his clawed fist on the table. You cannot mean this. Beg from humans. From a species we once ruled like cattle. But even his anger carried weakness. He had lost 3 systems in 1 week to human fleets. His empire was dying, and he knew it. The insectoid speaker raised his trembling voice again. If we do not beg, we will vanish. The humans have already shown their fury. We must plead for mercy. Perhaps they will listen. A deep silence followed. No one wanted to admit it, but the truth was clear. They had no choice. The Council sent a message, a broadcast across the stars, directed at Earth, on Earth. The message was received in the vast chamber of the United Terran Assembly. Human leaders, generals, and admirals watched the alien faces appear on the giant screens. The insectoid speaker bowed his head low, something no alien leader had ever done before. His crystal wings folded close as he spoke with desperation. Humans of Earth, we come to you not as rulers, but as survivors. We beg for peace. We beg for mercy. The galaxy has seen your strength. We cannot stand against it. If you wish, we will give tribute. If you wish, we will give worlds. Just spare us. The chamber in Earth fell silent. Around the world, billions of humans watched the broadcast. Aliens, the same ones who once called them weak, now begged like frightened children. For a moment, there was confusion. Was this truly happening? The once mighty Council, the voice of the galaxy, kneeling before Earth. But the silence on Earth was not just shock, it was anger. Memories came back, old wounds that never healed. Humans remembered. The slave camps, where children worked until they died. They remembered the mines, where entire villages vanished into darkness. They remembered the battles, where fleets of alien warships bombed cities, calling it punishment. And now these same aliens asked for mercy. In the Terran Assembly, Admiral Kane, a man with grey hair and sharp eyes, leaned forward. He had fought the aliens since his youth. His voice was cold. Mercy. When did they show us mercy? When Earth burned. When our colonies were taken. When our people were chained. His words were broadcast to the world, and billions nodded. The anger of humanity was united. The alien speaker's voice trembled as he tried again. Humans, if you continue this war, the galaxy will drown in blood. Please, we beg you, show the mercy that we once failed to give. But the humans gave no answer. The broadcast ended. The Galactic Council sat in their chamber, waiting, shaking, hoping for a reply. Hours passed, then days, but no word came from Earth, only silence, and in that silence, fear grew. The reptilian overlord whispered to his aide, "Perhaps silence is the answer. Perhaps the humans do not forgive." Across alien worlds, rumors spread like fire. What would humanity do? Would they accept mercy, or would they unleash their fury? No one knew, but every alien who looked into the night sky saw the same thing. The stars felt darker, as if something terrible was coming. Humanity had heard their plea, but humanity's answer had not yet come, and that waiting was more terrifying than war itself. The silence from Earth was heavy. The aliens waited for an answer, but none came. Every passing day added weight to their fear. Their fleets patrolled nervously. Their leaders whispered in private chambers. Their people looked at the sky and wondered if doom was on its way. And while the galaxy waited, humanity remembered. Long before the Council's plea, Earth had suffered. At first, humans reached for the stars with hope. They sent signals, they built colonies, they dreamed of friendship. But the first answer they received was not friendship, was chains. The alien overlords arrived in towering warships. There, soldiers marched on Earth's colonies, declaring humans too weak to stand as equals. At first Earth resisted, but the humans were still young among the stars. Their weapons were simple, their ships were slow. Against the alien fleets they lost. Entire human cities were burned. Colonists were dragged away, sold to distant worlds. Families were split, their names erased, their history rewritten. To the galaxy, humanity became a forgotten race, useful only as labor, never as rulers. But humans endured. In the dark mines, humans worked and remembered. In the alien arenas, humans fought and learned. In the laboratories where alien masters tested on them, humans stole secrets. Every drop of pain was fuel. Every humiliation was a spark. Humanity's fury was growing, hidden under centuries of silence. Generations passed, and slowly the humans began to rise. They built their own warships, copying alien designs at first, then improving them. Human engineers studied every weakness, every flaw. Human soldiers trained in ways no alien expected. They learned patience. They learned unity. They learned how to fight not just with strength, but with fire in the heart. The galaxy laughed when humans built their first fleet. The Council called it a joke, saying the primitives were trying to play war. But when that fleet entered battle, the laughter ended. A single human destroyer destroyed 3 alien cruisers in one clash. The aliens thought it was luck. The next time, it happened again, and again. Soon whispers spread. The humans are dangerous. Still, the Council ignored it. They believed their power was eternal. They believed no weak race could ever threaten them. But in the shadows, humanity was preparing. Admiral Kane, the same man who now sat in the Terran Assembly, had once been a boy on a slave colony. He had seen his mother die under alien whips. He had seen his friends vanish into the mines. That memory became his weapon. He rose through the human fleets, turning survivors into warriors, turning pain into discipline. He was not alone. Leaders, like him, rose everywhere. They carried old scars, but those scars became banners of strength. By the time the humans revealed their true power, it was already too late for the galaxy. The secret fleets, hidden in Earth's shipyards and in the dark side of the moon, were ready. Giant war machines, faster and stronger than anything seen before, waited in silence. The galaxy thought humanity was weak, but humanity had only been patient. The first strike came swift. An alien armada, arrogant and massive, moved against a small human colony. They expected an easy victory. Instead, human warships appeared from hyperspace, surrounding them. The aliens laughed at first. Then the human ships opened fire. Alien shields, which had never failed in centuries, shattered like glass. Human cannons burned holes through armor in seconds. Alien admirals shouted orders, but panic spread faster than commands. Their fleets scattered, their pride broken. The survivors ran back to the council with stories of horror. They said human. Ships moved like shadows, striking from angles impossible to predict. They said human soldiers fought like they did not fear death. They said every battle ended in fire, and now, with fleets collapsing and empires burning, the council begged for mercy. But the humans remembered every scar. Every leader in the Terran assembly had once lived in pain. Every general had once seen Earth bleed. Their patience was over. Their silence was over. And yet, even now, humanity had not spoken. The aliens had begged, and the humans had stayed silent. That silence was louder than war drums. In the council chamber, alien leaders began to argue in fear. They will forgive us, one said, trying to believe his own words. No, another replied. If they forgave, they would have answered already. A third whispered, perhaps they wait to strike harder. Fear spread through the galaxy faster than fleets could travel. Whole civilizations began to prepare for doom. Some planets fortified their defenses. Others spoke of surrender before the humans even arrived. And still, no word from Earth. Admiral Kane stood in the assembly, looking at the galaxy map. Systems that once enslaved humanity were marked in red. His voice was calm, but sharp as steel. They think silence means doubt, he said. But silence is judgment. We will not answer with words. We will answer with action. The room fell quiet. Generals and leaders around him nodded. Humanity was united. Across Earth, factories worked day and night. Giant shipyards in orbit built vessels the size of cities. Pilots trained without rest. Soldiers sharpened their weapons. Humanity was preparing not for peace, but for the final strike. The aliens had begged for mercy, but they had begged too late. In the silence, the humans sharpened their fury, and soon the stars would feel it. Asterisk, the waiting ended. For days, the Galactic Council prayed for an answer. They filled their halls with endless debates, but none of it mattered. The humans had not spoken. Their silence was a shadow that covered every empire. But silence cannot last forever. On the 10th day, the council received a signal. The transmission came not with greetings, not with diplomacy, but with a sharp, coded burst that broke into every channel at once. Alien leaders froze as the image filled the great chamber. A single human stood before them. He wore no crown, no robe, no symbols of weakness. His uniform was black, simple, and marked only by the emblem of Earth. His eyes were cold, filled with a fury that no alien could measure. He was Admiral Kane. When he spoke, the chamber felt smaller. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of storms. "You ask for mercy." The words echoed. Alien leaders shifted uncomfortably, some lowering their heads. The insectoid speaker trembled, his crystal wings rattling in fear. "You ask," Kane continued, "for something you never gave. Where was your mercy when Earth burned? Where was your mercy when our children were chained, when our cities turned to ash? You speak of peace now, but we remember your laughter." The silence that followed was heavy. Some aliens tried to speak, but their voices failed. Kane's eyes swept across them as if piercing their very souls. "You plead now because you are weak. You plead because you fear us. You plead because you know the time has come." He leaned closer to the camera, his face filling the screens across the galaxy. "Mercy was denied to us, and so we deny it to you." Gasps filled the chamber. Some counselors shouted in panic. Others tried to stand tall, but their voices were drowned in fear. Admiral Kane did not stop. "You gave us chains, and we forged them into weapons. You gave us death, and we turned it into strength. You tried to bury us, but we grew in silence. Now we come as the storm. We come not as victims, but as rulers. You will not decide our place in the stars. We will decide yours." The transmission cut across the galaxy. The message spread instantly. Whole planets received it on their public screens. Alien civilians watched in terror. Soldiers froze in their barracks. Even children understood. The humans had spoken, and their words were not peace. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Voices rose, wings beat, claws slammed the tables. Some demanded immediate surrender, offering tribute and worlds. Others screamed for war, even though their fleets were broken. But deep inside, they all knew the truth. Humanity would not forgive. While the council panicked, humanity moved. The silence that had lasted days was only preparation. Now, Earth's war machine roared. To life, fleets of battleships launched from orbit, each vessel larger than the last. The Thundersoul battleships, armed with weapons that bent light itself, took their positions in the void. On the moons of Jupiter, giant cannons were raised, their barrels aimed at the stars. Soldiers filled transports, carrying rifles that could tear through alien armor. Factories across Earth worked without pause, building machines of vengeance dot everywhere. The human people watched with fire in their hearts. They had seen their leaders' words. They remembered their pain. They wanted the same answer, fury. But while the humans prepared, fear spread deeper in alien space. In the Valen Empire, a reptilian admiral stood before his fleet. His scales shook as he spoke. "We must hold the borders. We must fight. If we surrender, we die. If we resist, we die slower." But his soldiers looked at him with doubt. They had seen what humans could do. In the insectoid hive worlds, queens gathered, their wings dimmed with despair. They whispered to each other that perhaps the galaxy had chosen a new master, and it was not them. In every corner of the stars, the same whisper echoed. The humans are coming. On Earth, Admiral Kane stood on the command deck of the flagship Iron Resolve. Before him, the great fleet stretched into the darkness. Thousands of ships, armed and ready, engines burning bright. He raised his hand, and the fleet saluted him in silence. No cheers, no words, only the quiet understanding of a united people. His voice was calm when he gave the order, "Move." The fleet leaped into hyperspace. Across alien space, alarms screamed. Sensors picked up human signatures entering border systems. Governors shouted orders. Civilians fled. Armies tried to prepare. But the humans moved like shadows. They struck with speed no alien could match. On the first day, 3 alien outposts vanished in fire. On the second, a fleet of 50 warships was reduced to debris. On the third, entire colonies were captured without resistance. The aliens begged again, sending messages filled with panic. "Stop this. We will surrender. We will give tribute." But the humans did not answer. The message had already been given. Mercy was denied, and in the heart of every alien, the truth grew colder. Humanity had returned, not as the weak species they once knew, but as the fury of the stars themselves. The council, desperate, met again. The insectoid speaker whispered to the chamber, his voice filled with dread. "The humans have spoken. They will not stop." And as his words echoed, every alien leader knew they were true. The fury of mankind had begun. The galaxy burned. Wherever the human fleets arrived, silence followed. Star systems that once flew alien banners now drifted in darkness. Their ships shattered, their stations turned to fire. Entire armadas tried to resist, but they fell like dry leaves before a storm. Humanity had unleashed its fury. The Iron Resolve, Admiral Kane's flagship, cut through alien space like a blade. At his command, Thundersoul battleships formed hunting packs. Their weapons tore through fleets with merciless precision. Alien admirals tried to fight, but nothing worked. Their shields, once believed unbreakable, fell apart under human fire. Their armor cracked like stone under thunder. And it was not just ships. Human ground troops landed on alien worlds, moving with discipline and speed. They wore dark armor, their faces hidden, their eyes glowing with determination. Alien defenders who once mocked human weakness soon found themselves broken. Human soldiers fought not only with weapons, but with rage carried from centuries of pain. On one world, alien, generals surrendered before the battle even began. They marched out of their fortresses, weapons thrown down, claws raised in fear. They begged the humans to spare them, but the humans walked past in silence, their boots echoing like drums of judgment. The fury was everywhere. The council, desperate, sent more messages. Their pleas filled the stars. "We surrender. We give our fleets. We give our worlds. Just stop." But the humans did not reply. Their only answer was fire. The galaxy had seen wars before, but this was different. Other empires fought for land, for resources, for power. Humanity fought for memory, for scars, for the children who had been chained, for the families who had vanished, for the worlds that had bled under alien rule. Every strike was personal. Every battle was revenge. Alien. Civilians watched the skies with terror. They had grown up hearing humans were weak, a small species with no power. Now they saw the truth with their own eyes. Human warships filled their skies. Human banners rose over their cities. Their leaders begged, their fleets died, and their empire crumbled in the council chamber. Despair ruled. The insectoid speaker who once demanded humans bow, now sat with wings folded in shame. The reptilian overlord who once called them cattle now shivered like prey. The chamber echoed with whispers. How do we stop them? How do we survive this fury? But no one had an answer. Admiral Kane gave none. On the bridge of the Iron Resolve, he stood with his hands behind his back, watching stars pass through the windows. Each report that came in spoke of victory. Another fleet destroyed, another colony taken, another empire falling. His officers stood ready, waiting for his commands. "Push forward," Kane said quietly. His voice was calm, but every word carried finality, no hesitation, no mercy. The officers obeyed. Human fleets split into waves, striking deeper into alien territory. They did not pause to rest. They did not slow down. They moved with the patience of a machine and the fury of a storm. The galaxy had never seen such unity, such focus. Aliens tried to rally. The Council forced 3 empires to combine their fleets into one final defense. A massive wall of ships, stretching across a star system, armed with every weapon they could build. It was their last hope when the humans arrived. The battle began with fire brighter than suns. Alien ships opened with everything they had. Beams of light, waves of missiles, storms of plasma. Space shook with energy. For a moment, they believed they might hold. Then the Thundersoul battleships advanced. Human weapons cut through the wall of ships as if it were nothing. Alien cruisers broke apart, their wreckage spinning into the void. Human carriers unleashed. Swarms of drones that moved like hunters, tearing through enemy lines. Alien admirals shouted orders, but chaos ruled their fleets. In less than an hour, the wall was gone. The humans did not cheer. There was no celebration, only silence. The silence of a people who carried too many scars to ever forget. News of the battle spread fast. Entire empires collapsed in fear, surrendering, before a single human ship reached them. Planets raised white banners in the sky. Entire species bowed, not out of respect, but out of terror. The galaxy finally understood. Humanity was not fighting for conquest. Humanity was fighting to make sure no one ever dared enslave them again. But as the fury spread, so did whispers. Some aliens began to ask, would the humans ever stop? Or would their fury consume everything, leaving nothing but ashes? Even among humans, some wondered. On Earth, in the quiet moments, mothers and fathers asked if their children would ever know peace. Soldiers wondered if vengeance could ever be complete. But for Admiral Kane and his fleet, the answer was clear. The aliens had begged too late. Mercy was gone. The stars themselves now shook with the fury of mankind. The war was no longer a war. It was a storm that could not be stopped. Alien empires collapsed one after another, their fleets shattered, their leaders on their knees. Worlds that once laughed at humanity now trembled at the sound of human engines. The Council, once proud and powerful, was broken. Its grand chamber was half empty. Many leaders were gone, their empires destroyed. Those who remained sat with heads lowered, whispering in fear. The insectoid speaker no longer raised his wings. The reptilian overlord no longer roared. They waited like prey waiting for the predator to strike. And then the humans arrived. Not in secret, not with silence, but with a display that shook the galaxy. The Iron Resolve entered orbit above the Council's homeworld, followed by the largest fleet ever seen. Thousands of human warships formed a wall of steel and fire, their weapons pointed at the planet. The sight was enough to make billions of aliens fall to their knees. On the surface, the Council gathered one last time. The chamber was filled with fear. Every window showed the human fleet above them, blotting out the stars. The doors opened. Human soldiers marched in, their steps loud and heavy. Dark armor covered their bodies, and their faces were hidden behind cold visors. They carried no flags, no symbols of mercy. Behind them walked Admiral Kane. He moved slowly, his eyes sharp, his presence heavier than any weapon. He did not look left or right. He simply walked to the center of the chamber, where the council once ruled, and stood. In silence, no one dared speak. The silence stretched until the insectoid speaker finally gathered the courage to rise. His voice was weak, shaking. Humans, we surrender. The council surrenders. We beg you, end this war. Spare us. Spare our people. We will give tribute. We will give worlds. We will bow. Only stop the fury. His words hung in the air like dust. The chamber waited. The galaxy waited. Admiral Kane's face did not change. His eyes were cold, his voice steady. You say you surrender. You say you beg. But where were these words when we begged? Where was your mercy when our children cried? When our cities burned? When Earth was in chains? You gave us nothing, and now you ask for everything. The councillors lowered their heads. Some shook, some wept. Others pressed their claws together, praying silently. Kane's voice grew louder, not with anger, but with certainty. Mercy is not yours to ask for. Mercy was a choice you had centuries ago. You chose cruelty. You chose chains. You chose fire. And now we choose fury. The chamber shook with silence. Aliens looked at each other, but none dared to move. Kane raised his hand, and a signal was sent. Outside, the human fleet shifted. Weapons turned toward the planet, engines burning brighter. Billions watched from the surface, their eyes filled with terror. But Kane did not give the order to fire. Instead, he lowered his hand. His eyes swept across the chamber one last time. You will live, but you will live under us. Humanity is not your slave. Humanity is your master. The age of alien empires is over. The age of mankind has begun. The chamber erupted in cries, some of despair, some of shock, some of bitter acceptance. The humans did not react. The soldiers stood still, their armor shining in the dim light, silent as stone. Admiral Kane turned and walked away. The councillors tried to call after him, but he did not look back. The humans had said all that needed to be said above. The planet, the fleet held position. They did not fire. They did not leave. They waited, a reminder that the galaxy now belonged to humanity, and across the stars, the message spread. Entire civilizations bowed their heads. Some surrendered without a fight. Others swore loyalty. The galaxy understood. Humanity was no longer weak. Humanity was no longer the forgotten race. They were the rulers. On Earth, billions cheered. They watched the broadcast of Kane's words, his declaration echoing in every home, every city. For the first time in centuries, they did not feel like victims. They felt like destiny itself. Yet even in celebration, there was silence. For humanity knew the truth. Their fury had shaken the stars, but fury was not peace. The scars would never fade. The pain would never vanish. Humanity had risen, but it had risen from fire, and the fire still burned in the dark corners of space. Whispers grew. Some aliens feared humanity forever. Others plotted in silence, waiting for the day they could rise again. But that day was far away. For now, humanity stood unchallenged, and Admiral Kane's final words echoed across the galaxy. Carved into memory, into history, into the very stars themselves. Mercy was your choice long ago. Fury is ours today, and fury has no end. The chamber fell silent. The fleet above glowed like suns. The galaxy trembled, and so it was written. Mankind's fury shook the stars.